That's 45 in first. Oh, we appear to be at motorway already. That's quite quick. In this video, I'm in industrial Buckingham, where I've swapped my Daewoo Matiz for a BMW 7 Series for what I hope will be the first of many Hubnut long-term tests. So yes, a big thank you to my friend Chris for lending me this fabulous 7 Series E32 BMW. Like I say, I'm going to be borrowing it for a fair period of time, at least a week, maybe more, to waft around in. A bit of a treat to myself, because let's face it, I don't often waft about in great barges of comfort, and an E32 BMW should be a great way of doing that. I've always liked these cars. I love the family styling linked to the smaller E34 5 Series, but there's enough differences, the wraparound indicators, the general scale of the thing, to separate it and give it its own distinctive vibe. This is not a prime example of a 7 Series. This has belonged to my mate Chris for some 11 years, I think. And he's, like me, he's very much of the school of thought of drive it rather than spend thousands of pounds sorting out the lacquer peel on the paint. So that's all good for me. It's a 735i, it's the second engine up in the range. The 730 was the entry model. 735 uses a 3.5 litre, nice and sensible 7 Series 3.5. Remember when they used to do that in the olden days? Logical badging. And so yeah, straight 6 engine and a ZF, I think, possibly, automatic gearbox. You'll note the Nürburgring sticker. That isn't boasting, it actually has been around the Nürburgring. Chris really does like to use his cars. Although this one's been off the road for 7 years, and basically he's asked me to exercise it for him. So I think a trip to Wales should do that quite nicely. Again, I love the rear light clusters, very of their time, but also very BMW, the way that you've got the sort of notch down, very similar to the 5 Series again. We've got the Hofmeister kink going on here a bit on the glass, a bit of a design feature, but generally, yeah, it's just a big slab of motor car, but a lovely, lovely shape. And I think these came out in 86, it might be 87. This is a fairly early one on an E-plate, it'll be 87 or 88. And as a rival to the Jaguar XJ40, of course. And it couldn't be more different, really, could it? Or the Mercedes-Benz W124. Oh no, it probably wouldn't be the W124, would it? It'd be S-Class, so larger again. 3 very different executive cars, but for my money, the BMW is the most handsome of the lot. There's a hint of swooping line without being too swoopy, and yeah, very purposeful, very softly aggressive, whereas modern BMWs are just blobby and slashy and horrible. Particularly like the driver's wiper spoiler. That's a nice strong feature there with a practical benefit as well. So all good. Let's have a nose inside, where I'll be spending some time over the next few days. You see I'm living in the car, so there's all my goodies on the passenger side, including my vac mounts triple sucker in-car mount. That's what I use for mounting the camera, in case you wanted to know. It's all a bit tired in here. I particularly like this repair here, just to big up the 7 Series register. But it kind of works. The wood is looking a bit tired, it's lost its luster. But there are plus sides, pretty serious plus sides. Brown, for a start, is a serious plus side. Close the door. Nice reassuring thunk. And yeah, very clean, concise, slightly sporty, nothing OTT, shouty in your face dials going on. We've got there's various functions available to you there on the indicator stalk. We've got a separate stalk for cruise control over this side, and there's the wiper control. Lights are on this slider here, and fog lights similarly on their own slider over here. And nice curvaceous swooping dashboard. These center consoles steered slightly towards the passenger. You think a Jaguar XJ40 feels very angular, by comparison. Obligatory in this this sector to have a trip computer. We've got air conditioning, which thankfully works. You'll see I've cleverly color coordinated my 12 volt adapter, and there's the gearbox with manual and sporty modes. Hazard lights. That's a very quiet indicator noise, barely hear it. Electric windows down here, and a handbrake, which apparently some people use in an automatic but not me. So yeah, nice leather seats. Some of them are in good condition. We've got an electric sunroof, which I haven't dared play with yet. It's all getting a bit wrinkly in our old age, but nonetheless it smells nice in here. Very pleasant ambient. Big fresh air vent there, with my other mate, the one I was using, but it's far too wobbly. But yeah, lovely driving position, very comfortable. I look forward to seeing how I get on with that. Let's have a quick peek behind. There are some issues here in the back. Headroom is being robbed slightly by a slightly sinky headlining. That's just like a Jaguar XJ40 in fact. But yeah, we've got these lovely pop-up sort of head restraints, he says. There we go. That's a slightly cheap noise. I'm quite surprised by that. But oh yeah, quite comfy back here. Plenty of legroom, knees alert. The only thing I will say is, if you wanted more, you could have a 7 Series L, which offered even more comfort and luxury. And another unusual feature of BMWs of this era, if I slip my arm under it, is the fact that the seatbelt, attached the microphone wire, goes across that way, so that all the seatbelts are in the middle of the car and the buckles are down by the door. A slightly interesting take, but maybe some models had a folding rear seat. I don't think this does. I think it's a fixed bench, and centre armrest rather obligatory here. Oh yes, there we go. Do we get a ski hatch? No, it doesn't look like we do. Although if we don't, I'm not really sure why you'd have that flap there. Interesting things we're all learning here together. Some things have not been open for a very long time. Oh, there we go. Cubby box inside the glove box. Let's just get this to pan down. Now it's up. Look at that. Marvellous. Clunk. Everything feels quite solid, it has to be said, if a little underused. I can't imagine many people have ever sat here in the back, but yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't mind headlining the side. Oh, no soft closure. Bit of a disappointment on the old grab handle, but nonetheless, I think I would rather be in the front. This is a driving car after all. That is rather the point of these BMWs, is it not? But let's have a peek at the power plant before we drive off. And there is a big old slab of engine, the 735i, 3.5 litre 6-cylinder overhead camshaft. Yeah, big lump of engine with a huge viscous fan on it, and associated pipeworks and everything. Spark plugs are down here. They must be fun to access. I suppose you probably have to take all this off to get in there. Yeah, that doesn't look fun at all, but that's okay. I haven't got to service it. So the bonnet is a bit Saab-like in that it drops down and sticks up fussily until you give it a shove and lock it down. But yeah, there we go. It's going to be fun getting to grips with this car. I'll do some onboard footage post haste. I have no idea what it's doing, but nonetheless, this weird, horrible stereo. Air conditioning is kicking in. That's good because I'm pretty warm. And yeah, this car does feel its age in some ways. There's a little release button on the bottom of the T-handle for the automatic transmission. But there we go. Revs drop. It's a gearbox that seems very happy to just use the torque of the engine, keeping it quite relaxing. There is a bit of a knock from the back end, multi-link rear suspension on these, so there might be a bush somewhere that's a little on the tired side. But at 149,000 miles, perhaps she's allowed the odd clonk here and there. Steering is surprisingly heavy, it keeps catching me out. I was expecting it to be much lighter than it is. But maybe that's because the BMW is the ultimate driving machine. You don't want over-assisted steering. Sadly, often a fault of the Jaguars. They tend to be a bit, a bit too overly assisted. But the controls are certainly pleasant to use. It's easy to drive. It's comfortable. And responsive to kickdown. I've no idea what the horsepower is, but I'll find out at some point during this test, and we'll see what the figures are. But you know, I was a little worried that a 3.5 might be a bit sluggish. The XJ40 when launched was a 3.6 and regarded as underpowered, and so swiftly upgraded to a 4 litre. And so I was thinking, oh well, maybe, you know, only the second engine up, this will be a bit feeble. But no, BMW managed to extract quite a bit of power from it, so it's not bad at all. And the next engine up was the V12, which I think was a 5 litre, so it was quite a jump. 3 litre entry model, 3.5 middle, and then V12. They later introduced some V8s in 3 litre and 4 litre form. Much as I like V8s, a BMW to me is all about a 6-cylinder engine. I'm not sure why that is. It's just something my brain has latched onto. Can I get this to tell me fuel consumption? Chris, what have you been doing? It reckons the fuel consumption is averaging 12. I wonder if that includes the Nürburgring. So yeah, it's not a superb wafting barge because you do have to put some effort into the steering. It's not designed to be like a Lexus and all about sheer waft. Of course, I've had a Lexus LS400 and very enjoyable, but I didn't enjoy the Lexus in Wales, so it'll be interesting to see how this compares once we go onto some Welsh twisty roads. But there you go, the test will continue. This is the car I am borrowing, and it is certainly a lot more refined than a Daewoo Matiz. Very remiss of me. I stopped the camera and then couldn't reach it again because you're so far away, because this is such a big car. How do we do the washing now? Is it that one? Oh yes, there we go. Oh yeah. I mean, the blades are a bit tired. Oh, there's a nice misfunction as well. Good overlap, no triangle of doom. I'm going to rate the BMW 7 Series wipers as excellent. But there's no headlamp wipers and no rear wiper, so maybe not excellent. I'm just about to rejoin the A34. And it occurs to me that I could put it in sport mode. I think. There we go, sport mode. I can put it in drive. I can go and see what sort of noises it makes. That's 45 in first. Oh, we appear to be at motorway already. That's quite quick. Also quite windy, but I left the windows down for maximum noise access. Ooh, that's very unlike a Daewoo Matiz. And listen to how peaceful it is. Now we're at a cruise. Oh, yeah, I quite like the wafty bargeness, but I'll just put it back into. How do I put it into economy? There we go. Now the torque converter locks up. I thought the revs were high. Gotta love a torque converter lockup. Whoa. Removes the mechanical drag of the gearbox. There is a physical link all the way through, so it improves efficiency and helps us get the economy up. Look, 16.4 now. What will it be when we get home? We're a few days on. Haven't driven this car since bringing it back here. Okay, the various flaps aligning themselves. I'm gonna have to wipe. Yeah, something I've discovered with this car is that the wiper blades, certainly the driver's one, is bespoke. It's got a huge spoiler on it, so really you want to change just the rubber. I've actually ordered some up because even though it's not my car, that needs doing. But also what needs doing is tyre pressures. So I'm just going to get that done because this back one's looking a bit flat. I wonder what they're meant to be. Oh, there we go. 2.7 bar. So I think one of the most surprising things about this car is the level of vitriol. I posted a couple of pictures on Facebook. People going, oh, money pits, oh, BMWs, oh. And don't let the people who drive BMWs steer your reputation, or steer your thinking rather. BMWs are nice cars, and a bit like Audis really. You shouldn't judge them by some of the absolute beeps who drive them. Not all are driven by beeps. Some are driven by nice people who get very upset when I tar everyone with the same brush. But nonetheless, when you see people bullying on the roads and driving like idiots, generally they're in some sort of prestige German car. It's an unfortunate fact. But yeah, I mean, it's a lovely car to drive, even though, you know, it does feel a bit tired. I've got the rear suspension noise, it feels a bit baggy. The engine mounts are a bit tired, I think, so manually downshifting results in a bit of a jolt I don't like very much at all, so I've just stopped doing that. The brakes are superb, just use the brakes. Although you're always aware you're hauling down a lot of weight here. This is a big old car, but it drives beautifully, and you can really hustle along in it. A bit too much. I found myself in the Welsh borders quite a few times. People seemed to pull out in front of me. They just misjudged the speed I was going, and it wasn't like I was breaking the speed limit. I was just going pretty quickly for that sort of terrain, which is entirely possible. As things get narrower, obviously the car is a bit big for such behaviour, but compared to a Lexus LS400, this is so much sharper. It actually feels nice to drive quickly on a twisty road. It's not XJ standard. Jaguar XJ is pretty much still the benchmark for cars of this class because the way they ride and handle, and this is too firm. But most of my disliking is the wear and tear. These seats are horrible. I seem to have lumbar support on one side only, and I can't find any way of adjusting it, so the seats need a complete makeover. All the adjustment cables have stretched, so if you try adjusting the seat position, the whole seat just twists and feels generally terrible. So that's not good either. And that's on both seats, both sides. So I can't adjust the height, I can't adjust the backrest. I'm kind of stuck with Chris's driving position, which is not quite the same as mine. I've been able to move the seat forward a bit. That adjustment still works, but yeah. And generally the wear and tear, the interior seems to have aged very badly. In the Lexus, which I think had a similar sort of mileage on it, if not more, the leather was still soft, and the seats had plenty of give in them. They were absolutely marvellous. I do miss that car at times, but living in Wales, not quite so much perhaps, because it just wasn't the car for here. Oh, that wiper blade is very irritating. Yeah, I don't think the aircon's working perfectly. I think it would probably benefit a regas. I can hear the compressor kicking in, but it wasn't pumping out cold. It was definitely cooler, but yeah, not as cold as I perhaps wanted. Otherwise, you know, most controls fall nicely to hand. The cruise control's a bit down out of the way. But yeah, I like it. This is a really nice car. The MPG is an issue. It's currently reading 21.6, and if you bear in mind that computers often overread, they overestimate, then the reality is not at all good, and that does not compare favourably with anything else in this class. I've driven Jag XJs and generally about 27, Lexus LS 2830, so firstly old beast. But I shall continue driving around and continue collating this report as issues develop and as my views change before we go and swap it back for a Daewoo Matiz, because this is Hubnut. Tell you what, just like the Rover 800, there's a really annoying creak from the really cheap nasty plastic around the seatbelt. So there's a creak right in your ear. That's quite annoying. But on the other hand, it does do that, and that's quite nice. So it's a week on since my last drive out in this. I've replaced the wiper blades, so that was them operating. You didn't even hear because they're now that quiet. So that has worked well. I had to fit a refill to the driver's blade because the blades are model specific. But nonetheless, wiping is now restored to yeah, it is now much better, so that's good. Right, we're on the road between Pontrydd Fender Guide, which we're just leaving, and Tregaron, and that's odd. It's changing. It's even in sport mode, and it's still changing gear sensibly. Oh, there we go. It's that last few millimeters of throttle travel seems to make the actual excitement happen. That's 60 miles an hour. This road's a good test for a car. I did once get told off for driving down here a bit too quickly in a Citroen BX. All legally, just quickly. What impresses with this car is the speed you can carry through the corners. The only problem being that you're aware that it's a big old Hector, it really is. You can feel the weight, especially if you have to brake hard. And the good thing about this road is there aren't many tight bends, apart from this one. So we shall apply a little braking, balance the throttle. Yeah, body roll is very nicely controlled, so you can go quite quickly. But in sport mode, it's not locking up the torque converter, so this won't be doing anything for our fuel consumption. But yeah, it makes it that much more responsive when you come onto the throttle. Well, I might as well engage the torque converter now. We've caught up some Land Rovers. Yeah, it can be great fun without the high revs. It hasn't got that frenetic feel of, say, bombing around in the Matiz or the 2CV. I'm sure no one ever envisaged a day would come when a BMW 7 Series would be compared with a 2CV and a Daewoo Matiz, but there you go, this is Hubnut. I'm aware there's been an awful lot of me just sitting and talking in this car, but I thought I'd just take a quick chance while we're somewhere pretty, albeit pretty windy, to have a look around the car again. We've got the gorgeous lacquer peel on the back there. I'll just get my shadow out the way. But it really is a handsome old Hector, I reckon. Very pretty looking car. Maybe pretty is not quite the right word. Very attractive, very clean lines, very of its time. As I've said, I love the styling of this entire range of BMWs from the 1980s. And while this car isn't particularly winning me over, there's certainly a lot to like. I like the effortlessness. I like the the grace it has. It feels graceful on the road, and that's it. It doesn't feel nimble, but it does feel graceful even when you're getting a bit of a shift on. So after 4.5 hours since we were on the coast, we're here in my friend's field. Overall, little disappointed with the comfort. I know BMWs are meant to be a bit sporty, but it's brilliant over speed humps, but crashes a bit over other road surfaces. And the seats are horrific. 150,000 miles has taken their toll on them. The cables are all stretched, so they're all slightly lopsided. Not very comfortable, and I can't find any way of doing lumbar adjustment. I don't know if it's not working or if it just doesn't have it, but overall a little bit disappointing. I think a W126 Mercedes offers more comfort. Dare I say it, I think even an XJ40 trumps it for comfort. An XJ40 can't compete with the overall ergonomics, I don't think. The XJ40 looks a much older design inside and out. XJ40 interior full of sharp angles. This is all smooth. Feels much more like progressing towards the 90s than an XJ40. It goes well, and it goes well without effort. You can just tickle the throttle and the speed goes up low revs very impressively, but she does slurp the juice. I think we may have tickled 25 mpg on the run over here, but that required some effort and some taking it easy. Cruise control works well, but I should show you this. Because I'm not sure I've mentioned it before. This is the sort of stuff that comes out in a longer term test, and the sort of thing that can be seriously irritating. The stalk is here, beneath the wiper stalk, which is just, that's not a natural place for your hand to be. You're not down here, you're up here. Yeah, don't like that. Far too easy to knock the wiper stalk by mistake. That is a fail on the part of BMW, I would conclude. But yeah, overall, very likeable. And this longer test has allowed me to really sort of find out what I like and what I don't like. And overall, very likeable car. I mean, I just look at them. I just think the styling is an absolute high point for BMW. Even though this one's a bit tired. Oh, that's what's flapping around at the back. The aerial is trying to jump out again. There we go, that's fixed. So there you go, that was my long-term test of a BMW 732. Sorry, 35, sorry. That's been conducted over a period of about 2 or 3 weeks, but I'm now going to swap this for the day Matiz and drive home in that, but not before we have some fun with some cars in this field. So what shall I say, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. Don't forget to go to Hubnut store, hubnut.org, for all the lovely merchandise. Not all of it is of Reliant Foxes, and yeah, I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Farewell. Didn't plan that very well, did I?